Late word of just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded.
Here's a little something I've learned from my many years of involvement with mask making. You know when you use a Dremel tool, you know what a Dremel is? It's one of those little rotary grinding tools with the little spinning end, and mask makers will use them to remove the flashing from a rubber mask before painting it, where the flashing, like where the two halves of the mold came together and there might be a seam left on the mask. You might use a Dremel tool to grind that off before you paint the mask. Well, that Dremel tool will throw little tiny white crumbs of latex. Unless you're working with black latex, then it would throw little tiny black crumbs of, yeah, you get the idea. We'll throw little tiny crumbs of latex all over the place, including in your hair. And if you Dremel some masks and then you go out in public, you look like you have a really weird case of some kind of strange dandruff. That's true. You'll have little white crumbs all over. And you really need to look in a mirror, maybe brush your hair out a little bit, maybe even wash your hair if you have those little white crumbs of latex, because, you know, it's rubber, but it looks like you have very strange dandruff going on. It's not cool to go out looking like that. Actually, it's not cool to go out looking like me under any circumstances, really, but yes, indeed, folks, anyone can have dandruff. But it takes a mask maker to have dandruff that bounces. Anyway, did you see that movie World War Z? Came out in 2013. Now, I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever made, but it wasn't terrible either. It was just pretty much part of the Hollywood system of scary movie making at that time, which means everything in it had been done a million times before and was very predictable, but it was done pretty well. It was, shall we say, competently crafted. Even though it could be said that the same movie had already been made, and this was my reaction. I saw it and I thought, this same movie has already been made in the early 80s as Night of the Zombies, also known as Hell of the Living Dead, and Nightmare City, also known as City of the Walking Dead, by Bruno Mattei and Umberto Lenzi, respectively. The same movies had already been made. You know, it's once again the whole zombie invasion thing, and okay, maybe it's better made than those movies in terms of editing and so forth. And of course it has the advantage of being made during the heyday of much easier special effects, computer generated effects, and movie shorthand at that time for horror and sci-fi, which means tint everything blue and orange in the scary parts. And everything else has to be grainy and out of focus and have the color turned down. But it was an okay movie, and you gotta admit, if you did see it, you gotta admit the zombie scientist, I'm not sure zombie is even the word they should be using. I didn't see them eating people like in traditional Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead type movies. I only saw them like biting people and then kind of going on. Like maybe they're tasting people and then they're like, ah, and they bite into you and then they think, nah, no thanks. I don't care for any of that. Kind of like when you go to the ice cream stand and you just take a sample, a little tiny, taste of something, and then you're like, nah, you know what? Olive flavored ice cream? No, no thanks. That's kind of what the zombies did in the movie. That's how it looked in there. Anyway, there's a great mask. Came out also in 2013 from Ghoulish Productions called The Scientist, or Scientist Zombie. Now, there were 3 versions of this mask available. This is the deluxe version, which is deluxe because it has the full back of the head and the neck and some hair glued on. sparsely and spooky and dead-like, and has the full neck and the bib and the slit up the back and etc. And you can tuck it into your costume. This is the deluxe one. Now there were two smaller versions. One was simply a face mask, also just called Scientist or Scientist Zombie face mask, and then the in-between version was called the 3/4 mask, because it didn't have the neck or any of this. It kind of stops here and then it goes sort of like that. Okay, it doesn't have this back of the head and neck and bib and so forth. Which one should you buy? Well, obviously you should buy the deluxe one because it's deluxe and therefore the most cool of the three. Now this guy in the movie, I don't think he has a name. He's just a guy who shows up, a zombie who shows up, and you see him like snapping his jaws together. One thing I love about this mask version of it, sculpted for Ghoulish Productions by Mike Rotella. By the way, when I say Mike Rotella, I'm not saying like a really, really small bank employee as pronounced by a New Yorker. It's just a little Mike Rotella. No, I'm saying Mike Rotella. So it's an entirely different thing. Mike Rotella did an outstanding job with this sculpture, and because you know why? You know what I love about it? He's so angry. He's so mad and ferocious and agitated. He's really got the drama going on. And a lot of masks look like, you can tell they're supposed to be scary, but they don't really look this ticked off and this tensed up and this intensely angry. Look at this face. This guy wants to bite you so bad. He probably won't eat you. He just wants to bite you, and he wants it really badly. He does. He can't wait for a chance to bite you. Beautifully sculpted mouth, teeth, tongue, all that. Very realistic, even on close inspection. Pretty realistically done. And sometimes I touch up the paint on mass-produced masks. I did not with this one. This guy comes straight from the factory looking good enough to be ready for display in your mask collection, or on a mannequin at your haunted house, or on your head if you go to a Halloween party or a convention, or if you just like to look in the neighbors' windows and alarm them. Whatever you want to do with it, you'll do it well with the Zombie Scientist from World War Z, created in 2013 from Ghoulish Productions. And I think you can order it from the Ghoulish Productions website, or there are probably tons of eBay dealers with the World War Z stuff at this time. But there you go, your recommendation for this week, the very scary and very intense and dramatic and cool Scientist Zombie. And until next time, remember, if you're too hot all the time, you probably shouldn't be sitting next to a great big candle.